drugs are also known as combined effect of drugs. So drug can modify the response of each other by pharmacokinetic or pharmacokinetic interaction between them. When two or more drugs are given simultaneously or in quick succession, they may be either indifferent to each other or exhibit synergism or antagonism. The interaction may take place at pharmacokinetic level or at pharmacodynamic level. Okay, so one or more than one drug, when it is consumed concurrently, one drug may affect the activity of another drug. Means one drug may increase the activity or it may decrease the activity, or there won't be any action also. This is also a possibility. So that is known as the combined action of a drug, which also modify the effect of a drug. We have got in total two activity of a drug, or we can say combined action of drug. First one is synergism and second one is antagonism, which we'll study one by one. So coming to first one, that is synergism. Synergism is derived from a Greek word where syn means together, ergon means work, so working together. Now here the drugs are working together. When the action of one drug is facilitated or increased by the other, they are said to be synergistic. In a synergistic pair, both the drugs can have action in the same direction or given alone. One may be inactive but still enhances the action of the other when given together. Okay, you will get to know this line when you study about the types of synergism, that is additive and superadditive. So additive, imagine additive means 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. Okay, so the effect of the two drug is in the same direction and simply adds up. Effect of drug A plus B equals to effect of drug A plus effect of drug B. As you can see in this box, a list of example is given. I'll take a first example. Aspirin plus paracetamol, it will produce analgesic and antipyretic action. Aspirin alone have got analgesic action, paracetamol alone have got antipyretic action. When both are taken together, they will produce their own action. So 1 plus 1 is equals to 2 over here. The second type of synergism is supraadditive, also known as potentiation. You remember for this is 1 plus 0 is equals to 2. Okay, previously we had 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. Here you can talk it as 1 plus 0 is equals to 2. Yes, in pharmacology this can happen. So the effect of combination is greater than the individual effects of the components. Effect of drug A plus B is more than the individual effect of A plus individual effect of drug B. This is always the case when one component given alone produces no effect but enhances the effect of the other, that is potentiation. An example is acetylcholine plus physostigmine, inhibition of breakdown. Acetylcholine is a pharmacologically active drug. Physostigmine has got no action. The work of physostigmine is to protect the inactivation of acetylcholine. That's it. So acetylcholine, when given as such, it is produced some kind of action, like 20% action is produced by acetylcholine when it is given alone. But acetylcholine, when it is given along with physostigmine, the action is increased by, you can say, 80%. Okay, acetylcholine when given alone, it will produce 20% of action. Acetylcholine when it is given along with physostigmine, the action is increased to 80%. Similarly, physostigmine when it is given alone, it won't produce any action because it is pharmacologically inactive drug. It will not produce any action. So acetylcholine when it is given along with physostigmine, the action of acetylcholine is potentiated. So you can say over here 1 plus 0 equals to 2. Similarly, we can take another example. Levodopa plus carbidopa is equals to inhibition of peripheral metabolism. Okay, we know levodopa is a drug which is used for Parkinsonism, and levodopa will increase the level of dopamine. So levodopa alone when it is given, it will increase the dopamine level to a small amount, because levodopa is largely metabolized outside by monoamino oxidase and COMT. These are the enzymes that metabolizes levodopa. But when levodopa is taken along with carbidopa, so then what will happen? Carbidopa will protect the levodopa against the metabolism or metabolizing enzyme. So activity of levodopa will be potentiated in presence of carbidopa. Carbidopa alone does not have any action. Levodopa alone have got little action, but levodopa when it is given along with carbidopa, the action will be potentiated. Okay, so you can say 1 plus 0 is equals to, yes, 2. or even more than 2. So this is regarding the synergism. Next we will talk about antagonism. When one drug decreases or abolishes the action of another, they are said to be antagonist. Effect of drug A plus B is less than the individual effect of A plus individual effect of drug B. Usually in an antagonistic pair, one drug is inactive as such but decreases the effect of the other. Depending on mechanism involved, antagonism are of different types, like physical antagonism. Based on physical property of the drugs, example, charcoal adsorbs alkaloids and can prevent their adsorption. Used in alkaloid poisoning. Suppose anyone has consumed large amount of alkaloidal drug, suppose. So if you consume activated charcoal, so on the charcoal the alkaloid will get adsorbed and it will reduce the adverse effect, the poisoning action of alkaloid over here. So this is an example of physical antagonism. Next example is chemical antagonism. The name only says that some kind of chemical reaction may take place because of which the drug will become inactive. So two drugs react chemically and form an inactive product. An example is chelating agent complexes the toxic metals. So chelating agents will reduce the toxicity of these metals like lead and ascorbic acid and so on and so forth. Next, physiological or functional antagonism. The two drugs act on different receptors or by different mechanisms but have opposite overt effects on the same physiological functions. An example means that is have pharmacological effect in opposite direction. The example is glucagon and insulin on the blood sugar level. So this antagonism is depending upon the physiological action. The example only says everything, glucagon and insulin. If any individual consume insulin, the blood sugar level reduces. And to same individual, if you give glucagon, the blood sugar level will, yes, it will increase. So this is the physiological or functional antagonism. Insulin will reduce the blood sugar and glucagon will increase the blood sugar level. So anything, if it is present in higher concentration, will favor the action. Like if concentration of insulin is more than glucagon, then blood sugar level will reduce. But if the concentration of glucagon, if the dose of glucagon is more than insulin, then the blood sugar level will likely to be increased. So that is the physiological antagonism. Lastly and the most important one is the receptor antagonism. One drug, that is antagonism, blocks the receptor action of the other, that is agonist. And we know, we have studied previously in our when we were talking about in my video of pharmacodynamics, antagonism and agonist, antagonist and agonist, always they will be fighting for the receptor binding site. This is a very important mechanism of drug action because physiological signal molecules act through their receptor, blockade of which can produce specific and often profound pharmacological effect. Okay, so if you give any antagonist, the natural agonist which is available inside our body will fail to produce the activation of the receptor and there won't be any effect. We know agonist and antagonist both have got affinity, both can bind with the receptor, but agonists have got the intrinsic activity, means it is able to activate the receptor, but this antagonist, it will not have, it does not have any intrinsic activity, means it will just bind with the receptor and it will not produce any kind of activation of the receptor. Moreover, receptor antagonists are selective, that is an anticholinergic will oppose the contraction of intestinal smooth muscle induced by cholinergic agonist, but not that induced by histamine or serotonin receptor. So we will learn this line with a simple example. Suppose this is an intestine. Intestine have got various receptors. Suppose this is cholinergic receptor, this is histamine receptor, and this is serotonin receptor. So when acetylcholine binds with its cholinergic receptor, it will produce contraction of the intestine. Similarly, histamine binding with histamine receptor, it will also produce contraction of the intestine, and when serotonin also bind with its serotonin receptor, it will also produce contraction of the intestine. Okay, so both cholinergic drugs, histaminergic drug and serotogenic drugs will induce the contraction of the intestine. Okay, now suppose you give an anticholinergic drug. Okay, so anticholinergic drug is a kind of antagonist. of this receptor. So when you give this receptor antagonist, what will happen? This acetylcholine, which is an agonist, it will fail to bind with the receptor, and it won't produce action of the activation of the receptor, and there won't be any action. So if you think that if you want to produce a relaxation of smooth muscle and you just give an anticholinergic drug and you told that okay, I have stopped the activation of a single receptor and you have won the war, means you have produced relaxation of the intestine, so that is not correct, that is completely incorrect, because you have got even histamine. If you give histamine, it will bind with this receptor and it can produce contraction of intestine. If you give serotonin, it can also bind with its receptor and it will produce the contraction of the intestine. Means okay, do not complicate this example. This says that if you inactivate one receptor, it doesn't mean that you have inactivated the entire organ. That organ may have multiple receptors present on them, and multiple agonist molecule can activate those receptors and will produce the action. Okay, so if you block a single receptor and you told that okay, I have blocked one receptor, I have given one antagonist, that means there won't be any contraction of the intestine. There are serotogenic receptor also, there are histaminergic receptor also that can produce the action, and that only says our previous statement, which was somewhat like this: an anticholinergic will oppose contraction of the intestinal smooth muscle induced by the cholinergic agonist. Okay, so these receptors are highly selective in their nature. Okay, so an anticholinergic drug will bind with the cholinergic receptor only. This anticholinergic drug will not bind with serotonin or histaminergic receptor. It will bind with its receptor only, and it will inhibit that particular agonist molecule only. This histamine, it will bind to its receptor, and its serotonin, it will bind to its particular receptor to produce the action. So these receptors are highly selective in their nature. Next, receptor antagonism can be competitive or non-competitive. So first of all, we'll talk about the competitive antagonism. It is also known as equilibrium type. The antagonist is chemically similar to the agonist, compete with it and bind to the same site to the exclusion of the agonist molecule. So as you can see in this figure A, we have got two more figures. Figure A says that a competitive antagonist is one that have got physical similarity with that of the agonist. Okay, and when it binds with the receptor, there won't be production of the action. When an agonist binds to a particular receptor binding site or agonist binding site on the receptor, response will be produced. Similarly, partial agonist will also prevent a full agonist to bind, and a sub-maximum response is produced, as you can see in the figure C. Okay, so competitive antagonist means these antagonists have got a physical appearance or a chemical nature similar to that of agonist, and it will compete with it and binds to the same site, to the agonist molecule binding site. So that is competitive antagonism. Next, we have got non-competitive antagonism. The antagonist is chemically unrelated to the agonist, binds to a different allosteric site, altering the receptor in such a way that it is unable to combine with the agonist or is unable to transduce the response, so that the downstream chain of events are uncoupled. This is also called as allosteric antagonism, because the agonist and antagonist are combining with different sites. There is no competition between them. Even high dose of agonist concentration is unable to reverse the block completely. So you can see an image over here. Non-competitive antagonism, they are also known as allosteric antagonism, because as you can see here in figure E, non-competitive antagonist will not bind to that site where agonist is binding. It will bind at another site, and after binding to another site, it will make the receptor inactive. Means even if an agonist molecule comes and bind with the receptor will fail to activate. When the receptor is unable to get activated, there won't be any production of any activity or any therapeutic action. So that is non-competitive antagonist. Whereas in case of competitive antagonism, what will happen? As you can see in figure D, Competitive antagonists have got the size or chemical nature similar to that of agonists, and they will compete for the binding site. If you increase the concentration of agonist, it will come and bind with the receptor and action will be produced. If you increase the concentration of competitive antagonist, it will come and bind with the binding site of the receptor and it will inhibit the binding of the agonist. Whereas in case of non-competitive antagonist, there won't be any competition between agonist and antagonist. In case of non-competitive antagonism, it will make the receptor inactive, so that even if you increase the agonist concentration to 10 times, then also it will fail to produce activation of the receptor. So that is non-competitive antagonism. Okay, I hope you people understood this thing. So previously what we found, as you can see in the figure A says that there is a receptor, okay, and agonist and competitive antagonist, they both compete for the same binding site. In figure B, what you can see, whenever an agonist binds with the receptor, a response is produced. What you can see in figure C, in presence of partial agonist, it also inhibit or it also competes with the agonist. It itself causes binding with the receptor and a submaximal response is being produced. Similarly, in figure D and figure E, what you can see, figure D says that whenever you increase the concentration of a competitive antagonist, it will come and it will bind with the receptor binding site and it will prevent the binding of the agonist, and therefore there won't be any action produced. In figure E, what it says that a non-competitive antagonist will bind with the receptor at a different site. It will not bind with the ligand binding site. It will attach to the receptor at a very different site and make that receptor inactive in nature, so that even agonist, it can easily come and bind with the receptor, but it will fail to activate that receptor. Even if you increase the concentration of agonist, there won't be any activation of receptor. But in case of competitive antagonism, if you increase the concentration of the agonist, the receptor will start getting activated. So that is the major difference between competitive and non-competitive antagonism. In competitive antagonism, both agonist and antagonist will compete for the same binding site. In case of non-competitive antagonism, the agonist and antagonist, there won't be competing for the same binding site. The non-competitive antagonist will bind with the receptor at some different area. Okay. In case of competitive antagonism, if you increase the concentration of agonist, it can produce the activation of receptor. But in case of non-competitive antagonism, even if you increase the concentration of agonist 10 times, 50 times or even 100 times, then also it will fail to produce activation of the receptor, because the non-competitive antagonist has destroyed the receptor. So this is the two major differences between competitive and non-competitive antagonism. And this completes our topic, that is various factors that influencing the activity of a drug. I hope you people understood this video, and thank you.